Hey, how's everybody doing today? It's Friday, October 20th in the year 2023. I want to talk to you today about something that really goes to the core of a business, and it's the social responsibility that a business does or does not take in terms of their community, their area, the people, their employees, whomever they may make a choice to do. And one of the things that I struggle with a lot is, where does giving fit into reality? I mean, are we really, as a company, giving for giving's sake? Are we giving for advertising? Are we pretending to give? How many companies say they're going to give, drive their own traffic because of it, and don't do it? So all of these things go through my mind, and especially during this time of year, as we get into a holiday season, when I know many companies, maybe all companies, are trying to advertise the fact that they are doing something for someone in some way. And the question again becomes, is it fluff or is it reality? So I'm going to go back in my time and talk to you a little bit about something one of my companies did, and then talk to you about the truth and the real result of that. And it's also pertinent today because of this conflict that we're seeing in the world with Gaza and Israel. So back in 2007, or I think it was 2006, 2007, I built an organization with my company. My company was called TouchStar. We had offices around the world. I began to realize that in spite of the success we were having, most of the countries where we had offices were very poor. And there was a mass amount of people that were barely surviving or subsisting on very little. And at the same time, there were companies like myself that were very successful. And within our companies, we were hiring local people, and for relative to their economy, they were doing very relatively middle class or even upper middle class. And so you had this company, this foreign company, coming in, pulling money out of the area, but contributing back by helping build a middle class by hiring people. But still, the country was full in majority of very, very poor people. It occurred to me that the real way to impact a world in a positive way is to grow a middle class, and that the more middle class you grow, the more opportunity a corporation creates, the less you're going to have of poverty, and there'll be more evenness within that society. So I began to see that a corporation, from a social perspective, their own can take on the responsibility of planting seeds of improvement within any specific social environment by helping to grow a middle class. And I then began to realize, secondly, that I am talking to people on all sides of a problem. So in spite of the fact that 2 or 3 people may be angry with each other politically, or socially, or in any other way, when it came to business, most of those people, not all, but most, were willing to work together to create money for themselves. Unfortunately or fortunately, it was based on a certain level. Business is based on a certain level of greed. And that greed means that people look less deeply at who somebody is and more at what I can gain financially. So I thought, let's take this idea that in a crazy sense, greed can actually build opportunity and cross lines of division, because greed is a driver that may overcome divisions so that people make money, if you can get what I'm saying. And at the same time, recognize that creating these relationships in the economies of the world that have a high level of poverty and a smaller middle class, if we begin to create business that works together beyond the lines that normally divide them, using that emotion of greed, and at the same time hire people, that those people become more middle class, that you're contributing to peace and you're contributing to a better environment for people to live in. Now, I knew my company was just one company and we weren't going to solve the world's problems. But what I recognized was that everybody, every company who walks in and pulls from an area needs to do something to plant seeds of improvement in that area. In other words, you can't just say, I'm going to come and make a lot of money and then I'm going to leave and the heck with you, although many companies do. But you have to do something and give back, and give back above and beyond maybe taxes that you end up paying. So that was the premise. So I built an organization called Commerce for Peace. And it was Commerce for Peace and Prosperity became its moniker. We began by doing exactly that. We began to look for opportunities to plant our seeds in the premise that I came up with. We went to places like in Central America and met with government officials all the way up to presidents, and recognized that they were looking for wins as leaders of their country. And so we took advantage of that and said, we will come in and we will build you a free contact center. But here's how it works. You can say that you're participating in allowing this to happen, but we're going to go to this school that you have. And within this school, we're going to set up a class on to be an entrepreneur. And we're going to have this business that is here, because we're in contact center tech. We know a little bit about it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in, teach entrepreneurship to your students. We want those students to be ones that are scholarship students and not the wealthy. And then at the end of each term, we're going to create a contact center business for one or two of those students, either to work as a partnership or single. And we're going to give them a business. And we're going to give them a contact center. We're going to give them technology. We're going to give them the building. We're going to give them campaigns to call. And we're going to give them funding for the first year. And every dollar they make, they don't have to pay taxes or anything. They get to build up their cash. Within that context, they will have to pay their people. Now, the government needs to provide the location, provide the building at no, and provide us the opportunity to teach within your schools, and take no taxes for 1 year from that business. And that's why we had to go up in the governments to get them to agree. But they get to say they're helping to build their middle class, which helps them politically. We get to actually build contact centers that ultimately are beneficial to our business. It's more business for us. And we get to add to the growth of an economy and help build the middle class. And that was the premise that we went under. And we did it in the Dominican, we did it in Guatemala, we did it in other Latin American countries, and then we went to the Middle East. But in the Middle East, it was very tough because you had this division between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and it was a real, as we know, a terrible division. And there were situations where we could create a contact center and we could do everything that we normally do, and we could do that for the Palestinian group, but that contact center may need to reside in the Israeli side of the fence, and there needed to be an allowance to allow that movement of people between the borders in a safe way and let Palestinians and Israelis work together. Well, we thought that was a great idea. So we went to the State Department and we talked with Condoleezza Rice, and we talked with the Aspen Institute, and we inevitably developed a program that we got behind. It was our program to bring to this area. We began to work harder. We work with the Case Foundation. A number of people wanted to get involved. So here's the question, or the thought. A lot of these areas, the State Department, the Aspen Institute, the Case Foundation, they all wanted to get involved, but each one, including ourselves, had a different motivation. So here's the question. Was my motivation as a company doing this a motivation taking on social responsibility, or was what I was doing based upon the idea of advertising and showing ourselves to be, aren't we wonderful? To this day, I don't actually know the answer to that. And ultimately, we got a lot of benefit from it as a company, a lot of positive advertising, a lot of good things. And at the same time, we did give back to local economies, on and on and on. So here's what happened with the Middle East. We had a change of equity partners in the middle of this, and we were getting close to seriously moving on this. I had already spoken in DC and to large groups, and suddenly we had a change in our equity partners in our relationship, who began to control some of the decisions we made. And the first thing they did when they saw what we were doing and the investment it took, they said, "You cannot do this anymore. We don't want to spend the money. We don't care about that." And when that happened, we had to stop immediately. And the entire program failed. So what ended up happening was everything we did ended up becoming nothing for anyone except for one person, one group, me. I still have the advertising. And to this day, I still feel sick about it. So there are situations when you're giving or trying to give that create these internal conflicts that you face. And it's my belief also that there are other layers of things you can do. But I think the key for any business is they should take on the ideal of doing something within their universe to plant seeds of improvement, and then recognize that there are benefits from it, but don't do it for the benefit as your primary driver. Do it singularly for the idea of social connectivity and improvement, and the recognition that my business is only successful because of the community I live in. And if you truly can own that and believe that, that would be important. And then recognize that, of course, you're going to get a benefit for it. I've also seen companies do other things. I've seen companies say, we will give so much of a percentage of every dollar to something. And they do it year in and year out, and they give it to wonderful organizations like Make-A-Wish, March of Dimes, United Way, and on and on. And what ends up happening is they give many, many millions and millions of dollars to these organizations. And these organizations are completely, in many ways, dependent upon what they do. But inevitably, the public starts to take it for granted, and it isn't a driver for enhancing that business's presence by what they do charitably. And so I've seen some of those larger organizations begin to not do it because they're not getting a bang for the buck. And so companies work on this idea that they want a bang for their buck. And so it's imperative upon a company to constantly push their advertising, push the benefits they're bringing to their community so that they are in trade getting an advantage that motivates that company to continue to provide. Because if you don't do that, something like what happened to me, where my new equity partners walked in and said, stop, you can trust that they would not have said stop if they would have felt that in turn they were getting great benefits from it. But when they saw that it was only giving and not necessarily getting enough, it wasn't important to them. So just some thoughts today on, is it real, is it not? And then look, there are other companies that pretend and they say we're going to do all these things, and then when it comes right down to it, they don't. And they try to get the benefit with doing less. I can't speak to people that are unethical or just lack integrity or use the fluff of words and ideas and advertising and media to pretend. I can only speak to the people that I'm talking to here that care and give a damn. And in you, I hope that you want to go out with your companies and give because you're getting anyway. And give because seeds are the only thing we can plant to help become a better world and a world that we want to live in. So with that, I'm going to leave you for the day. I look forward to speaking to you next time. By the way, next time we are having a session, myself and someone else, an author who is going to talk some very specific and interesting experiences. I can't wait to share it with you. So look, you take care. Thanks for listening, and give, whether you get or not. Take care. Bye-bye.